Bold claim, the FDA is weighing a rule that could dampen how prominently dietary supplement warnings appear on packaging, a move some experts warn could make cautions easier to miss. But here's where it gets controversial. Does reducing repetition really help consumers, or does it open the door to more misinterpretation and risk? Overview. The Food and Drug Administration is considering a potential rule change that would scale back how often warning statements must appear next to health claims on dietary supplement packaging. If adopted, the rule would still require at least one disclaimer, but it would stop requiring the disclaimer to be repeated with every health claim. This aims to cut label clutter and lower costs, according to agency officials. Current context. Unlike prescription medicines, dietary supplements aren't pre-approved by the FDA for safety or effectiveness before they reach consumers. A 1994 federal statute requires supplement makers to include a specific disclaimer when they make claims such as supports immune health, promotes heart health, or improves memory. The disclaimer must read in bold, "This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease." What the FDA is proposing. In a recent letter to industry leaders, Kyle Diamantis, who leads the FDA's food division, described the possible policy shift. If the rule changes, the disclaimer would still be present on products, but wouldn't need to appear with every single health claim. The agency notes that it has rarely enforced the existing rule and argues that reducing repetition could lessen clutter and lower production costs. Timing and enforcement. The FDA has not announced a specific effective date for any rule change. It stated that it would pause enforcing the current requirement while it reviews the proposal. If ongoing data and information do not raise significant concerns, the FDA says it may move forward with a rule amendment. Public impact and skepticism. More than 75% of Americans take at least one supplement, and thousands of products, potentially up to 100,000, are sold in the U.S. This broad use heightens the stakes of how clearly warnings are communicated. Critics warn that relaxing disclosure could make warnings harder to notice, especially since supplements aren't rigorously evaluated before sale. Expert perspectives. Dr. Peter Cohen of Harvard Medical School cautions that lighter warnings could set a precedent for further shrinking safeguards, such as moving warnings to the back of the bottle or reducing print size. He points to concerns that the current labeling, though imperfect, serves a real purpose in informing consumers about safety and contents. Supporters' view. Supporters, including some industry voices, argue that a single, clearly linked disclaimer on the label may satisfy legal intent without overloading packaging with repeated cautions. They contend that better consumer attention to labels is already growing as people seek more health information. Regulatory balance and questions for readers. The debate hinges on whether one strong disclaimer at a single point is enough to inform risk, or whether repeated, highly visible warnings are necessary to ensure consumer understanding. If you were a consumer or a small business owner, would you prefer warnings that appear once per product, or warnings that appear with every claim and on every panel? Do you think this change could improve clarity, or would it undermine safety by reducing attention to potential risks? Note on related figures and people. The discussion spans various stakeholders, including politicians and public health figures tied to broader health movement narratives. Public endorsements and criticisms of supplement use advocacy appear in political and media circles, highlighting how health policy can intertwine with public opinion and market dynamics. Bottom line. The FDA's potential relaxation of the warning label rule for dietary supplements could simplify labeling and reduce costs, but it also raises valid concerns about consumer understanding and product safety given the lack of pre-market FDA evaluation for supplements. The final outcome will likely reflect a balancing act between label clarity, regulatory rigor, and consumer protection. Would you like to see this rewritten with more examples of how labeling could look under current versus proposed rules, or with a neutral, data-focused appendix summarizing the supporting and opposing viewpoints in bullet points?